Hey there, entrepreneur. This is Mark Newsom, Mr. Marketing, and welcome to this special presentation entitled 5 Really Important Stats You Need to Know in Order to Run a Successful Online Business. Otherwise, there's an extremely good chance you'll lose money. What you're going to discover in this brief presentation is 5 of the most important stats that you, as a savvy online marketer and business owner in general, need to track. Otherwise, there's a good chance the activities you're doing are going to cost you a lot of money. So the first concept that you're going to calculate is what is your website and or lead capture page's opt-in rate. And just to make a quick distinction here, your website might be an actual website like the front of your blog, and if you don't have some kind of opt-in form on your blog, you really should get one. But your lead capture page is a specific page that you send visitors to, and they only have one choice. They're either going to opt in to get the free offer that you're offering, or they're going to leave. Now, of course, they can leave your blog as well too, but the point is, on your blog you have all kind of options. They could watch a video, they could click a link to read an article, etc., etc., etc. A lead capture page is designed to do one thing and one thing only, ladies and gentlemen, and that's to capture the email address of that online visitor, period. So take a moment there and read the definition. But the main thing you need to know, just to go through some numbers, let's suppose within a 30-day period you had 38 unique first-time visitors to your site, 3,800. And of those 3,800, 419 actually decided to opt in and join your list. Now, some of the paid autoresponders, like Weber, they ask you to do what's called a double opt-in, and some only want a single opt-in. And what opt-in means is you'll get an email that basically asks you to confirm that you do in fact want the information, that you put your contact information into the opt-in box. And once you do that, they're less likely to get a spam complaint. And if they get too many spam complaints, they could be shut down or penalized. So there's all kind of problems, and that's why companies do it. So if you had 419 people out of a total of 3,800 exposures, if you will, if 419 took the action you wanted, which in this particular case would be to opt into your list, if you divide 419 by 3,800, you should get, you see the figure there, right here, 0.1102. You multiply that by 100, and that's how you get 11.02, or as a practical matter, we're saying here 11%. And note this little message here at the bottom, because this is extremely important. Different industries and different offers, meaning to the same list, will have different opt-in rate percentages. So in other words, don't have it set in your mind that just because you hear somebody say you should average over 10% opt-in rate or over 20%, or they have a 43% opt-in rate, that's for their specific industry, that's for their specific subscribers, and that marketer, that man or woman, could be extremely experienced, been online 10 years, they know all types of strategies and techniques that you and I may not be aware of at this particular time. So don't get it in your mind when you hear some figure thrown out like that, that you automatically A, should be able to do the same thing, or B, you should be realistically expecting the same results, because that's not the case at all. Now, the next thing you want to be able to calculate is your online visitor value. And just to try to be uniform here, we're going to use the same gross amount of unique visitors as we did on the last example. So let's suppose you had 38 unique visitors come to your site in the last 30 days or month, and they spent a total of $4,751. This figure right here. Now, in order to figure out the unique visitor value of each of those visitors, you take the gross amount, in this case the 4,751, divided by 3,800, and you should come up with a number very close to $1.25. So in other words, each of those 3,800 visitors individually is worth $1.25 to you. Or to say it another way, If you were using any type of paid advertising strategy to drive that traffic to your site, either pay-per-click, what's sometimes referred to as PPC, or PPV, which is pay-per-view, or if you were using banner ads, if each click costs you more than $1.25, there's a good chance you're going to lose money. And this is no different than in the offline world. Let's say you ran an ad and each customer is worth to you, because you've done the calculations, and we'll cover that in another video another time, but let's say each customer is worth $25 initially, and the ad costs you per visitor $37. Well, you're losing $12 per customer up front, or what they call on the front end. That's not good, people. So just to recap here very quickly, you want to make sure that once you figure out how to calculate your online visitor value, in this case it was $1.25. If you were using pay-per-click and you were paying as much as, say, 75 cents a click, well, you still have a cushion, or a spread if you will, of 50 cents. Now, that's more like it. That's what you want to do. So whatever that figure is, you want to try to stay below it. And to think of it another way, what if you used an offline strategy? Since you know online each visitor was worth $1.25, what if you hooked up with another entrepreneur who was non-competitive to you but needed the exact same customer, and you gave them 40 cents for each particular insert postcard that you could add in their mailing? Well, now you'd only be spending 40 cents and you'd still have that difference, which means you could mail with somebody else. That'd be 80 cents. You'd still be under the 125. So this is why it's incredibly important for you to know these figures, because the more you know about the mathematics behind what it takes to generate a lead and then ultimately convert that lead to a customer, ladies and gentlemen, the better, savvy, and smarter and more effective marketer you can be. And I hope you can see that there. Now, this next one you want to calculate is your cost per lead, or what people like to call in the industry your CPL. Now, the way you calculate this is, let's suppose you decide to pay for a solo ad. And for those of you not familiar with the lingo, a solo ad basically means, think of like a newsletter, on or offline. But in this case, since we're talking about internet marketing, let's just stick with online. Let's suppose somebody has a newsletter that's geared toward golfers, and they run ads in there. Let's say they have classified ads and they have display ads. Well, you're competing against all those other entrepreneurs who are competing for this limited amount of subscribers' attention. If you run a solo ad, what that e-zine, or they call them an e-zine, online newsletter would be called an e-zine, that e-zine publisher is guaranteeing you that for this amount of money, and it's always normally a lot higher than regular advertising, you're the only advertiser who will go out in that particular issue. Which means there's a much better chance, provided you target the right audience, that the people reading that, the subscribers, are far more apt to take a serious look at your advertisement as opposed to you just cluttered in with everybody else. So take a moment to read the definition there, but basically just to sum it up, here's what you need to know. And that's why everything is written in red, to hopefully draw your eyes to it a little easier. Let's suppose you spent this amount right here, $375 for a solo ad, and 81 people actually clicked through to your link, read your sales copy, and let's just say it was a lead capture page, and they decided, hey, you know what, this man or woman is offering something free that I really think I'm interested in. They click through, join your list. Those 81 leads cost you so much based on the amount of money you spent. And the way you would figure that is you take the entire amount of $375, or X, divided by the actual number of opt-ins, in this case was 81, and you should get a CPL, cost per lead, of $4.26. Now again, just from a surface calculation, if whatever you're doing on the end where you're ultimately trying to sell them doesn't net you at least $4.26 or more, you can lose money. Or, I'm sorry, I said or more. I meant to say or less. In other words, if you're selling something and at the end of the day you only make $3 for each sale per customer, but it costs you $4.26 to get that particular lead, you're going to be out of business real quick. And this happens all the time, ladies and gentlemen, on and offline. So you got to know these numbers. So this is your cost per lead, or CPL calculation. And that's how you do it. And you should be doing this especially anytime you're laying out money to run paid advertising, be it a banner ad, a solo ad, a regular display ad, whatever it is you're doing. You want to know what that cost per lead is. And there's another reason that we'll get into in another video, so you don't convolute this thing too much. But it's real important for you to know this, okay? Now let's talk about something that's real important that you'll definitely want to know about. That's your sales conversion rate. This is where we're getting down to how many people actually ended up buying something, because that's what it's all about, on or offline. Did you make any money? Now here's the way you calculate that. What you do is you take the total number of unique visitors that came to your site in the last 30 days. And let's say 76 of those 3,800 actually spent money. It doesn't matter how much money they spent. What we're trying to do is find out what was the conversion rate based on the total gross number of exposures and the actual smaller number of people who actually bought something. So in this case, you're looking at 76 people out of 3,800. So divide 76 by 3,800 and you should get 0.02. And let me stop and say this, because a lot of times when you see these kind of calculations, that 0.02, the 02 number is actually rounded off. In other words, if you did it with a calculator, you're going to have some more figures behind that too. But just to make this simple, so it's not, it doesn't look like it's so much math and all of that, we're just rounding it off, just so you know. So anyway, you get 0.02 and you multiply that by that percentage figure by 100, and that tells you that you have a sales conversion rate of 2%. So in other words, what that's saying is, on average, this particular offer only, and that's the other thing, it's not a blanket figure. This means based on that particular ad campaign that you ran, this was the result. So in this particular case, on average, for every 100 people that got exposed to this particular ad copy offer, 1 out of every 100 bought something. So in this case, 2 people out of 100 bought something. So you got a 2% opt-in rate. So hopefully, if that's not too clear, just do the math. Take the total number of people that actually bought. In this case, it was 76, divided by the actual total number of exposures, in this case 3,800. The figure you get, multiply that by 100, and you've got your sales conversion rate. So this is very important. And when you start joint venturing, and here's the other thing that's really why you want to know this. This kind of separates the amateurs from the wannabes. When you start talking to the bigger fish out there, the men and women who are making the 6, 7, 8 figures, well, you probably won't talk to them right off the bat, but their assistants and these other people, they're going to ask you for these figures. And you need to have a generalized idea. This is how you market and sound like a professional. And that's what you're after, obviously. Now, the next thing you want to calculate is something called your click-through rate. And I'm using email here as an example of your click-through rate. This could be a banner ad, by the way. Let's say you have a banner ad on somebody's site or your own site, and you're tracking it, and you want to have an idea of, based off the number of exposures, how many people are actually clicking through to the link. And this link could be a link to your sales page for one of your own personal products or services, or it could be an affiliate link to maybe a joint venture partner, or you're just an affiliate of some other product or service, like say Amazon or ClickBank or whatever. So here's the way you figure that. What you do is, let's suppose you had 15,238 double opt-in subscribers, this figure right here, and you sent an email out to them, and a total of 1,789, or this figure right here, actually clicked through to your link. Now, we're not talking about how many people bought anything. This is completely different. All your click-through rate means is they clicked through and went to the sales page or the offer, whatever it is you have, that link is connected to. And here's the other point. They might actually click through to your link and not do anything. But the point is, this tells you how many people on average, based on the number of exposures, actually did take the action you wanted, which was to click through and go to your link. So anyway, you take that figure of 1,789 and divide it by this figure, the actual total number of people you sent it out to on your particular email list of 15,238. The percentage figure you get, you then multiply by 100, and that's where you get this figure down here. So as a practical matter, 11.74%. That's your click-through rate for, again, that particular email campaign. So if somebody were to ask you what your click-through rate is, you can't just give them this blank figure, oh, it's 11.74%, because that's one particular offer. What if your next offer, instead of 1,789 people, only 500 people click through? So, it's an individual basis, and you have to be clear about that. And a lot of times beginning new marketers, they don't really know. And so that's why you're taking the time to learn this information, so that when you talk to somebody else, especially a man or woman who's further up the road than you, has a bigger list, has more experience, this is how you sound like a professional when you present an offer to them about perhaps doing a potential, what you call a joint venture, strategic alliance, whatever you want to call it, but a collaboration, if you will. So you want to take a moment and read that clinical definition and learn those calculations. So if you need to, stop the video right here and write these figures down, and then create your own, so that you know you have the concept down. And as it says at the bottom here, these 5 extremely critical stats you definitely need to know in order to run a successful online business. There's just no two ways about it, entrepreneur. You don't know these stats, you probably don't have a successful online business, and you're probably not gonna have one. And that's just the way it is. So in conclusion, let me just say this. You definitely want to know these 5 online stats and what they mean to your bottom line. And if you'd like to know how you can add an additional 25% to your, or 25% more, gross profit to your small, cash-starved, struggling small business and or service, and do it in the next 90 days or less, then you definitely want to get a free copy of this explosive, free 9-page special report that you can grab at youcanmarketonlinenow.com/sales. This is Mr. Marketing. We'll see you next time on the Marketing Minute.